Hi, I'm Tammy Greenberg, Senior Vice President, Business Development at the RAB, and welcome to Radio on Main Street, the podcast all about radio. Our latest series comes to you from the 2024 A&A Masters of Marketing Conference in Orlando, Florida, where we ingested 4 full days of content from marketing and brand stewards from leading brands. The conference theme was setting the agenda for growth, and we heard a lot about creating unparalleled consumer engagement with the help from advanced technology like AI. We heard about creativity, a laser focus on what matters most to consumers, and never ever losing sight of humanity as tech continues to expand. RAB had the opportunity to chat with many attendees and speakers about their business, their marketing goals, the issues that they're most focused on, and of course, their thoughts about radio. In this episode, Mike Hulvey, RAB's President and CEO, sits down with Catherine Price, Associate Brand Manager for the Seagram's Escapes brand at Seagram's FIFCO. With a career that has been focused on marketing beverages like beer, craft beer, and now the Seagram's Escapes brand, Catherine shares how the brand goes about truly understanding what makes their consumers tick to drive success.
Radio on Main Street continues, another edition in our series here at the A&A. Catherine Price joins us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So before we get into some of the takeaways so far at A&A, a little introduction for our audience.
Sure. So I work with FIFCO USA, based out of Rochester, New York, working in the beer space, consumer packaged goods, and I work on the flavored malt beverage side of things, on the Seagram's Escapes and Seagram's Hard beverage.
So what's your background?
My background's a little bit interesting. I've kind of worked in a variety of different capacities and fields, but I've spent the past 10 years in beer, previously as the Director of Operations for a regional craft brewery out of Chicago.
Okay. As a Midwest person, I appreciate that. Let's talk about what you have learned so far this year here at A&A and some of the themes that you've been focused on.
I think the themes around AI and fandom seem to pop up in just about every session. And some of that is really exciting for us as we lean in on an upcoming partnership next year that really is central around fandom. So I'm happy to see that as an opportunity. I think some of my colleagues are really understanding some of the different tools that they can use within the AI suite of options. And so that's been really good for us to learn how we can grow and use those to our advantage.
There is a theme, that we have heard from presentation to presentation with AI, but it's the marriage of human.
Yes.
And not forgetting the human element. We get focused on what it can do, or what we think it can do, or what maybe we're a little afraid it might do, but it does come back to the human.
I think it's all about, and I'm an absolute novice on AI, but it's all about those prompts. It's what do you want, and how are you looking to achieve it? And it really isn't that different from a really well-executed media brief. You still have your concept of what you need to accomplish, and you need to communicate that to someone else.
Please take your seats.
If AI gets there just slightly faster, that's great. But it still comes back to me knowing my brand and being able to communicate that to AI or someone else.
So walk us through your brands. If you pick a couple, what excites you about that? What do you see are some of these elements that we've talked about that you're deploying for the benefit of your brands?
So right now I work on the Seagram's Escapes. It's your Spike families. Seagram's Escapes is a legacy flavored malt beverage brand, really starting the cooler trend back in the 80s. So sometimes with a legacy brand, at certain points you have to refresh, obviously. So we are in the progress of a really big brand refresh and graphics refresh for next year to better connect with consumers. And we're pulling our strategy along with that to really create more social relevance and talk to people where they're at. We're also working on the Spike portfolio with a big partnership, as I said, that leans into that fandom space. And I'm spending my downtime crawling into subreddits to understand that consumer and what is fandom to that person and what matters about
that
it.
leads to the next question. What have you learned as you've been infiltrating this level? For background knowledge, I'm interested in knowing.
Without necessarily giving anything away as to what the concept is we're working on. We are more aggressively targeting a male consumer than we have in the past, and really, really reaching to that person. And something that I was surprised about in the commentary was a deep respect of the female performers within this fan space. And I wasn't expecting to see that. And really specifically say, when is this person coming back? When am I going to see more of that? And that the whole comments thread is saying, she's having a baby right now. She's going to come back when she feels like it. I really wasn't expecting that from the consumers. And that really led me to dial in a little bit more. What are the other subreddits that these people are following? What else do they think about? Because that wasn't what I was expecting to see in a comment section.
You were surprised.
I was surprised. And I learned something from that I can't pigeonhole them, and I'm expecting them to live within this small stereotype, and they are both human beings with a variety of thoughts and interests, and I need to know not just that this is their interest and that this is our intersection of fandom, but what is the rest of fandom for them? What else do they care about, and what are those other ways that we can connect with it?
It's interesting, early in the conference, iHeart released a study that they had completed with Malcolm Gladwell. And one of the big takeaways, and you probably know what I'm about to ask, and that 44% of consumers say that they feel ignored by brands, even though, you're digging into Reddit, you're trying to understand your fan, and I love that approach. How do you react to that as a marketer?
I think that this challenge. So I actually just met Malcolm Gladwell last weekend at a book signing, which is why it's so cool. So I've been reading his work in between all of these sessions. I think that there's been a lot of change in channels. I think there have been changes in what consumers and especially younger consumers care about. We all been talking about this. I think they're more aware of the advertising and branding than previous generations. And that leaves people out. They tune out. And I think that there are a lot of, we've heard this through a lot of the sessions, is diving into niches. What are those specific ways that you cannot leave 44% of the people out of this, but find a way to talk to them? Being able to do that with a national brand that has a variety of different consumer segments is challenging. I don't want to do something that's all about dogs when half of our consumers don't like dogs. Pets are not universal to everyone. How do you reach that middle ground?
Marketers don't start off to alienate 44% of the consumer. No one ever does that. It's a byproduct. Okay, let's talk about audio. How does audio work and radio specifically in your plans?
So we had a much bigger radio strategy last year. We actually partnered with iHeartMedia on it and had a really great experience. For some of our brands, we find that our consumers are frequently driving around to and from jobs, stopping at convenience stores. So the radio is always on for them. And that is a really good way to talk to them in a way that some of our other types of media, they're just not speaking that language. So even just for us, radio to that consumer, as long as we're targeting correctly, is that niche for us. And that's where our competitors are using different strategies and not talking to consumers in that way.
So the future of audio, from your perspective as a marketer, what do you see? What excites you?
Well, I'm a podcast girly, so I really like to listen to the podcasts. I like to hear what other people are talking about. And I think it's been interesting to see how advertising has shifted into that space. I know that me as someone who likes to listen to podcasts is not our consumer. So that's not necessarily how I'm going to reach my consumer. I'm still going to reach that consumer through that more traditional radio channel when they're, out and in between jobs. But it's more about how am I layering on top of that? How am I reaching them there? And then maybe they're, in a gaming space or, somewhere else. And can I also touch them there? So we're going across multiple different channels.
Okay, couple final questions. Actually, 3 final questions. You know what the last 2 are, right? We did a little homework. You're a trained actress.
I am. My background's in acting.
Which is awesome. How has that impacted your work as a marketer?
It's impacted in a really great way. I think about storytelling so much. Some of my favorite classes in college weren't even necessarily on the acting side of things, but more in dramaturgy, in text analysis. What is the full story that we're telling? What are, we translate it into marketing, what are the tech poles? And so being able to have that viewpoint on it, I think really helps me have that full year vision. And then, you transition that into script analysis. And I like to write a little bit of copy for our radio. We were just doing that to advertise some samplings last week. What is the language and what is the power of those words that we can use to talk about our products and talk about it in a motivating way? My father's an editor and my mom's a librarian, so my passion for the power of words is very, very strong.
Awesome. I love that answer. I'm so glad I asked the question. All right, what do you? Radio matters because.
Radio matters because for us, it matters because it really reaches our consumers where they are. And other types of media don't. And I think that that's so important to understanding our consumer and talking to them.
Radio works because.
But radio works because I sit down and do the analysis afterwards to show my supervisors. But I think radio works because people are listening when they're not listening. And I think that's important.
Thank you so much for sitting down and spending some time with us today. I really appreciate it. Love your passion, and I love your storytelling asset, for sure.
Thank you for having me.
Best of luck.
Having taken a deep dive into understanding what fandom really means to their consumers, it will be truly exciting to see how the massive brand refresh for Seagram's Escapes comes to market. We all know that there has been a lot of change in the media channels, and when coupled with the fact that today's audiences are more aware of advertising than previous generations, it's absolutely critical to tap into their needs so they don't tune out. As Catherine shared, radio has proven to be an important platform for the brand because it reaches their consumers where they are, and other types of media just don't.
If you'd like to learn more about radio and its many benefits, we invite you to visit us at rab.com, or you can email us directly at askrab@rab.com. Until next time, it's Radio on Main Street.